Last week I posted a video from Professor Ross Tucker, who's a sports scientist whose work I follow quite closely. And his video came about as a result of discussions that were going on around the Olympics with regard to the mental health of athletes and how athletes, like all high performance individuals, go through these very, very individual struggles. And if you look at the material on high performance in any field, it doesn't matter what it is, you'll find there's a lot of similarities. There is a lot of continuity to it, and it doesn't really matter what the field is. And you would expect that to be true because the stresses placed upon an individual in these very dynamic fields of endeavour will always be the same. The stressor will look different, but the impact and the response of the individual will be the same. And vast rivers of ink have been spilt talking about trader psychology. And by and large, it concentrates on things such as traders' irrationality, the way we anchor to price, the way we deal with losses, our general struggles with our relationship to money. But unfortunately, one of the things it tends not to cover is the notion of resilience. And resilience is somewhat of a buzzword at present. It seems to have very much entered the common lexicon. Even my old school, along with offering classes in Pilates, yoga, transcendental meditation, mindfulness, now offers resilience training for young men. My somewhat blunt response to that is you're going to an all-boys school. If you survive, you're resilient, so move on and do something else. But that point aside, trading is a profession that requires resilience. If you are not resilient as an individual, you will not succeed. If you are the sort of individual who uses the word triggered in a sentence that says, I was triggered by this, then you won't succeed because you simply lack the emotional maturity to deal with the knocks and confrontations that occur in the market. And when you deal with markets, it is a constant confrontation. It's not a confrontation between you and the market. It's a confrontation between you and you. You're constantly trying to find ways to navigate your way through this minefield that is your response and your reaction to the market. And to deal with that on a day-to-day basis requires that you be resilient, that you have the capacity to get up every day, start again. And one of the things I came across was the notion that when looking at resilience, there's a lot of material now appearing in pain management research because it appears that pain management has moved from a physician prescriber model where the doctor simply says, here, take these, to a model of self-efficacy, a model where control is handed back to the patient and the patient is given certain skills and helped to develop certain modes of behaviour. And I actually came across these little bits and pieces. This is from a symposium on long-term chronic back pain, and it looks at a series of factors that are key to developing resilience and being a resilient practitioner, a resilient individual. And they're worth actually going through and calling out because, as you would expect, they have a commonality with trading. Now, these are not in any order of importance that I feel they should be. First one, optimism. You're really not going to do it if you're not optimistic. Trading is a difficult profession. You will be wrong more often than you're right, but the good thing about that is there's no nexus between making money and being correct. Self-belief. I would fold that in with optimism. You have to have a belief in yourself, but that can't be an arrogant belief. It has to be tempered with a degree of rationality. Control of self. One of the things we're finding at present is that there are so many things going on in the world that are outside of our control. As I'm recording this, we're partway through lockdown 6.0 here in Melbourne. You can't control the lockdown. You can't control the weather. You can't control what people think of you. But there are things you can control within you. And trading is about controlling your response to the market and not allowing that response to dictate what you do, that emotional response. A willingness to adapt. I see this more along the lines of having an adaptable personality. Granted, look, some people's trading systems are shit. They're just rubbish. If you're out there crapping on about the phases of the moon, fondling the chakras on your head, you're an idiot. And you probably won't make any money at all. You'll probably feel good about it. You'll have this notion that you are tapped into some great cosmic conspiracy, that you are the hero of, and you are this bearer of knowledge that no one else can understand. That's all well and good if that's what you want. But if you want something else from markets, then you're going to have a different approach. The willingness to adapt is to change the way you behave, that you are flexible in your behaviors. If you enter markets with a testosterone-fueled notion of you're going to show the market who's boss, then you really won't be around for very, very long. And so trading requires this fluidity that really a lot of people don't have. And that leads into their next point, willingness to be flexible. Things change. Your aims, outlooks, ambitions change. So you need to be able to change with them. They state here the ability to solve problems. I don't actually believe that the market is a problem to be solved. Markets simply exist and you surf the market. You don't actually solve the market. So let me give you an analogy. World's best ever surfer is Kelly Slater. He has a natural feel for being on the board and a natural feel for being in the water. But if I rocked up to him and said, here are the Navier-Stokes equations and wave formation, can you perhaps solve them for me? He wouldn't be able to. You don't need to. And this is part of the great mythology of markets, this belief that you must be some great form of quantitative analyst and have an immensely complex system that is a mile deep for you to succeed. It's not. My view is that trading is a subtractive process. You keep taking things away and you keep taking them away and you keep taking them away until you're left with the bare bones. The bare bones brings robustness. You have a system that will work across multiple timeframes, multiple markets. Very, very complex systems lack that robustness. And I think in many, many ways, robust systems exist because of ego. There's no functional reason for them to exist, so they must exist for ego. It is this notion that I have this thing that is very complex, only I can understand it, therefore I'm very clever, you're not. And there's no place for ego in markets because a market will soon lick the red right off your lollipop if you're driven by your ego. Emotional awareness. You have to be aware when things are coming unglued. You have to be aware when you're not functioning correctly. And again, it loops back to that notion of awareness. It loops back to that notion of willingness to adapt. If you're not aware of these things, if you're not conscious of them, you can't make course corrections. Social support. Trading is at its heart a solo endeavour, but without a functional group around you, some form of support, someone you can share war stories with, someone you can describe your day to, it's a very, very, very difficult endeavour. And we've found throughout our mentor program and our more advanced boardroom that the traders who do very, very well are those that tap into the support of others. They find others whose way of doing things, seeing the world, and whose personality resonates with them. And they work together in these small unit groups and they support one another. It's a little bit like study groups we used to have at university. And their final point, and of all of these points, and they're all functional points, their final point is sense of humour. This is, after all, a game. If you can't laugh at yourself and the stupid things you do, not only in trading but day to day, then you're going to find it a very dispiriting game. You're going to find it a game that grinds you down. You have to some days push back from your desk, switch off the dealing system, and just have a laugh at yourself. Because the moment you treat something as a game, the moment it becomes play, you're able to discover all sorts of things, but more importantly, you're actually able to survive just that little bit longer.